of you're gathering and collecting particles of water, and then you can quantify that. You have light sensors or light meters that do the same. So the photons or the particles of light hit the light sensor, then you can count your photons and then get an intensity so you know right away how much light is in your environment. So the two units that I mentioned earlier, there are two important ones. The first one is called the U-moles per meter squared per second, which is sensor measures. And that gives you an idea of how bright or how dark your space is. So even now outside, it's probably 100 times lighter than it is inside. So, and I'll get to that in a second. But for every crop, there's like a Goldilocks zone of intensity. So you can undershoot that or overshoot that and then cause problems. So whether it's a drag on efficiency or stress on the plants. The other unit is Daily Light Integral, and that's basically when you take your instantaneous measurement and then you multiply that out over seconds per minute, minutes in an hour, and then how many hours in a day you're illuminating. Then you have a number of a DLI, and you can, again, get a target of, okay, what's good for tomatoes? What did we actually get that today, or did we not meet that requirement? So these are ways of quantifying light to gauge if you're on the mark with it and you have enough for your system. So another phenomenon with light is extinction. This happens to be a cannabis plant. Cannabis is a light hog. It takes a lot of light. And I'm sure it's not a controversial crop at all, but no, it's actually one of the earlier crops to adopt indoor lighting, literally being grown in people's closets. But you could, if you were to quantify it, there's tons of light on the top, almost no light at the bottom. So if you're thinking of every leaf as a solar panel, yeah, they're being utilized great on the top, but then the ones that are shaded underneath, that's kind of wasted architecture of the plant. So that the plant has built it up and it's sitting there, and it's not only just penalizing the plant by not contributing, but it's also drawing away from the plant because there's a maintenance cost for those leaves. So illuminating many surfaces as possible is very important. So a quick snapshot, very, very quick. So lighting and supplemental lighting and LEDs is very commonplace now among veggie crop growers, whether it be leafy greens, cannabis growers, ornamental growers, cucumber growers, tomato growers. And it's all about maximizing the profit on a square foot basis. There are some different examples. So even on the research front, there's a lot of investment going on in a lot of unique ways and strategies and even angles of illuminating plants. Anyway, so the question begs, what's next? It's already moved beyond tomatoes and now into like berry crops, and then it's looking at forestry species, saffron, grapevines, and then our nut trees potentially next. So I'm going to run through this, but one takeaway that you could take home with you is, for example, Dr. Leo Marcellus, a world-renowned tomato scientist, basically quantified that for every 1% unit of light you put in, you get 1% return or increase in yield. And more recent research has shown that to be true for CBD hemp, for example. So all these graphs I won't go through, but basically on the horizontal axis, it shows you the amount of light, and as you increase light, you can increase plant productivity. And what got me thinking about supplemental light for nut tree growers is this one project that I was involved with of growing grapes. So this researcher was trying to shrink the window down from a 3 to 5 window to maturity, so that from 3 to 5 years down to 1 or 2 seasons or 1 or 2 years, so that a grower could sooner turn a buck on that grape in the vineyard. And yeah, they found some very interesting results there. Again, I don't have time to get into it. But then there are other, on a smaller level, adaptations of using supplemental light. So here's an apple tree grower up in Quebec that used indoor lighting to grow his own saplings, so to speak. There's research being done on oak species and tons of other forestry species. Not so much that I've seen on nut tree producing species. So there's a cool frontier that could be pursued in that avenue of research. So where and when could lighting fit in? Basically, in the early stages, when plants are at a high density in their high tunnels, in greenhouses and at a young age, they could utilize light. Obviously, when it's planted out in the field, it's not going to work. And then lastly, some challenges and benefits to adopting supplemental lighting. So it is a new frontier. It's uncharted territories, so describing and quantifying the benefits will take a little bit of time. Optimizing light recipes, making sure you keep costs low, that all needs to be worked out for tree production. But the benefits could turn into shorter cycle times for plants, basically, or, for example, bumping up your saplings or seedlings